Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt and this is Cutting Through the Matrix on Christmas Day, 25th December 2020, and I hope you're all enjoying some of the Christmas period, because we got to intensify the happiness that we can achieve and steal, in fact, under these conditions of austerity that are coming down the pike, and the enforcement of government agencies that you've seen in times of war. It's a wartime scenario you're going through with coming rationing and a completely new way of civilization to emerge out of the end of it. And it's planned that way. It was planned a long time ago. And just like a Pearl Harbor event was needed to get 9/11 to bring through a whole new warfare campaign across parts of the world, especially the Middle East. Then it's the same thing here with COVID is the reason for locking us all down into a post-consumerist type society. You all know this, I'm sure. Stop watching TV though. You're getting terrorized deliberately because all the media that were involved with Event 201 and the Cladex, etc., and all the way back 10 years. I've been preparing this for years and years and years. They're all on board with helping the government terrorize you. I gave the articles out before from the SAGE group in Britain, where they admitted they subcontracted a group of psychologists and behavioral experts who drafted up guidance and guidelines for the media and how to intensify, exaggerate stories, to create more anxiety, to make sure that the public would conform to the demands of government. This is all published stuff. It's not conspiracy theory. It's all on the website, cuttingthroughthematrix.com, from their websites. So it's all truth. If you really want to get terrified, just tune into the mainstream television every day, or even AM radio or FM radio, because they're all on board. They'll get paid to terrorize you, because you all have to conform into the new system. And again, you have your immunity. I gave these talks years and years and years ago, this coming austerity with vaccinations and proof of vaccinations and immunity passports, before you heard the term immunity passport, because they had long talks about these things, very intense talks about them worldwide, in shaping the new system and an excuse to make it happen. The Club of Rome, as you know, stated quite blatantly in the first global revolution that they needed something to unite the planet under a common threat of extinction, something, So they just hit upon the idea of climate change. That's what they said in their own writings. You know this. And man, therefore, be the enemy. You see, you are the problems of the world. Too many of you. It's always been the same agenda with too many of you. They don't want you going into their new system, you see. There's nothing this is an age where nothing is hidden, if you want to know. From their own publications, the people involved in the real deep state and all of the assets of the deep state, as you want to call it that, have been quite open about what they're doing right now, and Schwab at the World Economic Forum and all the rest of them out there too. They're quite blatant about a post-consumer society. You see, you're post-industrial already, and you turned into a service economy, as you know. You're living through a big change. This is the big one. This is the one they kept talking about. And they even told us after the last bank crash, this would take maybe 8 or 10 years to get to the step of the next wave of it. Well, now you're going through it. And as I say, it's to change your whole way of living into a very austere way of living. We're going through a very tough time. I've had so many emails from people who are suffering big time. And a lot of the elderly too, terrified out their wits, who watch TV every night. And they're literally withering away through fear and terror. Some of them aren't even eating, and have cut themselves off from their relatives, and their children, who come to visit them or see them. They don't want to see them because they've been told that they could be carriers and give them a disease. This is horrific what's happened here. But again, you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs, as Mr. Rockefeller always said, when it came to the casualties for big agendas. Well, they've already written off the elderly here, big time. in Canada and the States and elsewhere, as you all know. So this Christmas is vital, really, for people to remember things that they should have been really remembering all along, and just how precious so much of what you're losing is to you. Because, and I thought about this the other day too, I thought, you look down through history and governments always trembled at the thought of big religious organizations standing up against them. They've had clashes down through centuries, folks. That's why Marxism, communism wanted to eradicate religion as an opposition to authority, to their authority. And the same thing's still happening today, of course. And Christianity definitely is bearing the brunt of it all, because we saw it during the lockdowns before, and the various protests, riots and burnings and so on in the streets of the States, that the police would not stand up for religious meetings. In fact, they persecuted religious meetings, same in Canada, but they allowed the people to riot and burn and loot, because they've got proper causes. So you can't look to the state, because the state is run by the deep state. All the politicians are. Everybody who gets a big fat paycheck supplied by the taxpayer is in on it, and they know it too. So don't count on the authorities standing up for you. It's obvious, you see. The coup has been done long ago, and it was successful long ago. And now they're simply letting you know it. They're back in the saddle again. They had a temporary 4 years there that didn't expect to happen when Trump got in. And of course, they're going right back, and they're quite open about it, into the climate change agenda, so sustainability. Too many of you again, and the whole agenda, and the burden of the phony money. Yes, it's all a joke, the money now. But the fact is, to keep pretending you owe thousands and millions of dollars, and even trillions now, from the money that's been borrowed, supposedly, even though nothing really changes hands anymore at the top, does it? It's just so many digits are put into a computer. But you all have to pay up in real effort and real things and real tangible goods, all the citizenry. The system has always been corrupt. I've said this for so long. And the folk never really get it when the times are what they think is good times for the last 10, 15, actually 20 years. Has been a shortfall on really a big shortfall on what previous good times used to be. Because since the 1980s, we've been stagnating in the West and speeding up into the 90s with the free trade agreements, and then the purposeful funding corporations to move offshore to China. They use your tax money to do it. And so you've been in a service economy for so long, right down to the old stage when they used to say, well, you need 2 or 3 jobs now, like permanently throughout your life, to get through, and had all these big publicity pushes by the same media that's now terrorizing you on how to accept and cope the new normal that was coming down the pike then. And now you're into the big new normal now of austerity, terror, fear. Don't go out and meet anybody. Everything that was normal before, social-wise, meeting people, shaking hands, and having a good time, just meeting friends and relatives, is taboo now. And you all have to obey. And all your religious folk out there, just don't go to your meetings. Certain religions they won't touch because they're terrified of retaliation. I mean, physical retaliation. And we all know that too. But Christianity is an easy target. It was easy in previous revolutions in the world, and because they don't fight back generally. And people forget this too, because it's been drummed out of them. Christianity used to be pretty fierce, for fighting. And that's what made up the Crusades before in previous years, long time ago. That's what made up the armies sometimes for the various internal fights with Christianity, especially, unfortunately. But and again, they used to stand up for revolutions for themselves. When tyranny got too bad by the kings and queens, they would have the revolution like they had in the US, and a lot of them had pastors at that time that joined in the revolutions. But they've been working hard ever since to teach a different version of Christianity. It's been almost a milksop type thing, very much like that movie. It was called Bedazzled, where the devil, in the shape of a rather beautiful female, gives the guy so many wishes, and he's after this other woman. So he's always, in every wish, he's trying to get this other woman, and so on. But she always plays a trick on him. The devil always plays a trick on him and louses it up for him, so he doesn't get what he wants. So you find really that Christianity has been the main target to give you a new version of it as a passive, like Bedazzled, where in one scene he comes back as a really sensitive guy, because he knows this girl is after loves sensitive guys, but he's so sensitive he breaks into tears, literally tears, when he sees a sunset in front of her, and he can't function normally when he's so obsessed with emotions and feelings. Well, that's pretty well what we're into, as you well know. With modern Christianity, it's been turned into this kind of soppy thing which turns folk off. But governments used to tremble, as I say, at religious organizations when that's a big, powerful organization in any country, whether it's Catholic and Protestant. They could stand up to governments at times, and the governments would have to back off. And believe you me, it wasn't governments helping out social-wise or using socialism to enslave people into poverty, really independency. Churches and so on used to stand up and demand that the government at times took more care of the people who were getting hit with recessions, as they called it, instead of depressions, and make sure they had plenty to eat and plenty of work as well, because you need work to make you independent. No one wants to be, well, most folk I don't think want to be, or maybe I'm wrong there too. These days, folk, a generation is getting trained in independency, and some of them will actually like it. Some of them actually like socialism, where every decision is made for you. So you have to understand you're living through tremendous changes, and these are all planned changes, planned long, but meticulously, step by step, how we'll react to everything that's thrown at us by government agencies from now on. And right down to pretty good precise estimates of how many will not go along with this or that part of the big agenda. And because they've studied us for so long, and that's what the internet's for, is to keep tabs on everybody. And your cell phones too. So you're living through historic times, remember. Really historic times. So once again, it's not a matter of giving up, but you've got to have small groups that can help each other. Some folk can't get out at times to get groceries. You've got to start to think of all these things to make sure you can help each other. And when it comes to your turn, maybe they'll help you, and other times you can help them. That's what you got to do. And beware of the people they also plant out there through this. They've got lots of retired civil servants, folks, out in society that are meant to merge in the communities and get all the NGOs going and collect all the data and gossip and so on, and they send it back. Just like they did in the Soviet Union era. I've talked to so many people who were growing up in the Soviet era, and they would literally be spies for their parents and for the meetings. For Christian meetings, they were banned. It could be death sentence if you were caught, or off to the gulag. And they knew who the little spies were in their own towns and villages, and the children were told to watch out for them, where the people would have their meetings in their homes and things like that. See, defiance is an important part of being human, folks. You don't take ridiculous risks, you take measured risks, you see. But you're taking them all nonetheless. But do it with some wisdom and common sense. Because they do have these spies all through society. And again, I've done these talks many years ago. So remember, don't give up, and hopefully we'll come through this one way or another. We'll come through it. Whether you like it or not, one way or another, we're definitely going to come through it. That's what happens in life, eh? It's not things we would wish upon ourselves, but for some of us, a few of us, we knew it was coming down the pike. I certainly did for a long, long time. So have a Merry Christmas regardless, and try and keep your hopes up. And other folk too, get in touch with them as well. People you know are maybe suffering or getting depressed. Even in normal times or normal-ish times, people tend to get depressed. A lot of them do at Christmas time, because it's all also blended with the new year, and they reflect on the previous years and on their life and so on, So don't let people go by. Don't just take it for granted. So-and-so or so-and-so, this person or that person will come through okay. Sometimes people need a little bit of comfort or advice, or even just camaraderie to pull through things. So there's nothing worse than being cut off, completely cut off from people. But again, be wary of who's who, because this is a wartime scenario and they're using all the dirty tricks as they do in wartime to make sure that they can get their way, you know. So be very careful. So what I've done tonight too, and today, I mean, I think it's been 8 years or more since I opened the guitar case. I used to do occasional compositions. Even then, when I hadn't touched the guitar for years previously, and I would do one at Christmas time, and your fingers get worse and worse, and as you chop wood and all the rest of it. But I did pull the guitar a few days ago there to try to get it tuned. I actually bust one of my strings. Luckily, it bust just on the head, so I could tie it. Though it's on the classical guitar, tie it together, and it held. So I got up this morning, and I generally, even though I try and keep melodies out of my head and compositions out they come to me at times. Still, even though I said that there's no time for this kind of thing when we're going through this big war that I've been going through for a long, long time. So I put the guitar away to an extent, but I did pull it out this morning, and I rattled off in some form, some poor fashion, the beginnings, or at least the raw versions of some compositions that have been rattling around in my head, that when I get up, and I'll put them up tonight for you. And the first one is called The War. This is the war that is upon you and that you're going through right now. the second one is Be Still and Know. third one is called Journey in the Land of Nod. Because sometimes you have to get your mind will take you into a little bit of escapism to keep you healthy once in a while. Gives you a little break. It's like soldiers on leave. You get a bit of leave inside your own skull, and your brain needs it sometimes. So the land of Nod, that kind of never land. You're almost sleeping, and that's what that one is too. But yeah, it's been 2012 since I picked the guitar up at all, you know. So I hope you enjoy it. As I say, it's the rough versions played straight out from my head onto the guitar, and I might work on them later as well, and brush them all up and clean them all up and tidy them all up. A whole bunch I've got still to do, and from the previous years that I did it, because I used to do this for a living at one time. So anyway, take care of yourselves. Have a good Christmas, regardless. And don't just get terrified. Turn off that TV and regardless of what they got planned. You don't have to go along with all of it, believe you me. And there's more to this war than meets the eye. And this is the last thing you want to think about is the otherness of what's involved in all of this. They don't want you to think of that because you might get some power from the otherness, you know what I'm saying? And they know it too. They want you, if they can bring you into their battlefield, and their battlefield is the purely physical and monetary and material and financial, if they can bring you in on it, you see, and the scientific, like the Nietzschean battle. If God is dead, he says, then they can do what they want. All the things that was unthinkable, they can do all the things that are unthinkable. Well, you see, he said, if God was dead, eh? That's a big thing too, because a big idea, the thing that they're terrified of, the big idea, is that you might have the big idea too, and revamp something or revitalize something that they wanted you to forget altogether. People fight for causes. Big causes, and the bigger the cause, it comes from the bigger the meaning behind the cause, you see. It isn't just for us and liberty, it's for something much bigger. That's what they know, and they're terrified of. If people unite literally for something else that's bigger than themselves, that scares the people at the top. They on their battlefield, they can pull scientists out the hat anytime they want to. They'll try and bamboozle you with their nonsense. But when it comes into something else, personal experience, and something that exists here in the world and outside the world, that scares them. It's out of their realm, you see, and you're not supposed to think about it. So don't give up. And again, people can laugh at that too, because they've fallen for the plain battlefield of the physical, but they've never experienced things that are beyond themselves. I would love to be pure. I've always said this. I'd love to be purely rational at times, and I'd love to be purely logical at times. You see, things that are beyond this world are wrapped up in the logical world. You see, the material world. It'd be safer, and you see, well, but I can't because I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to, folks. I've said this so many times. Each time I try to, I get kind of cocky and think I'm doing okay, and blah 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 blah. This is many years ago, maybe. Then something would slap me right down. That shouldn't happen. 1,000 things that shouldn't happen would happen to me each time, until you get the message. No, yes, this is not for you. You know, there's something else here. So I have no option but to accept that in the proof. And because of that proof, you can never talk to people who don't have that, who've never had experiences, and they don't have the proof of it. So I don't even bother mentioning it generally. And it doesn't mean you can go crazy with it too and run amok into some la-la land. The fact is, you have to use the knowledge wisely, even for yourself too. You know, you're living in a physical world, and you do have to deal with the physical world, no doubt about it, big time. But you get glimpses of the other in this world too, the other side of it all. And you also get it with relationships with people, also the evil side with relationships with people. You get it all. This is the middle plane, as they call it, where everything happens, and you experience all the things. And people make their choices here. There's no doubt about that either. Eh? They really do make choices here, but do it all the time. So remember, folks, have a good Christmas, enjoy the music, and forgive the little rusty bits. You'll hear it. I feel it here and there. I'm sure half the time I was playing the strings, it wasn't my strings at all. My fingers are so brittle now, I think. They were twanging, you see. And maybe adding to the harmony a little bit. So for myself, Alan Watchman here in Canada, have a Merry Christmas and a good night. Take care.